So, good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming here and being so nicely socially distant. Appreciate that. Um, this is, among other things, the first anniversary of my election. So, a year ago, we were standing out at the high school and waiting and waiting and waiting to see how it went. But here I am. And I would much rather be talking to you about a lot of other things on my 1 year anniversary of being elected, except for COVID. But COVID is what we have. So I'll begin with a COVID update. But I do have one or two other little items of moderately good news to move on to after a couple of minutes on COVID. And as always, at the end of this, I'd be happy to take questions. So, as we all associated with the health and safety of the citizens of Greenfield follow regularly both state and national trends, we are seeing a change and slight increase in COVID cases in the city of Greenfield. As we sort of head further into the fall, we expected this. We do our best to plan for it, but and nevertheless, we all wanted COVID to be over by now, but it isn't. So I think it is going to take us into the winter as well. So this rise follows a significant plateau over several months, those months when we could all be outside more. And it was a plateau of new cases over the last few months. We went for quite a while with maybe 1, 2, or no new cases on a regular basis. As we moved into November, we saw an approximate 35 new cases of COVID in our city in those intervening months. So I'm not saying that in the first few days of November we had 35 new cases. That is not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that all those months leading up, let's talk about September, October, and into here, over that time frame is what I'm talking about. So in October we had 1 day of a very high count of 13 new cases, current cases. That day was 10/27. As of this week, we have 8 new cases. 8 currently active cases. And of that 8 new cases, the number is 6. So 6 out of the 8 are new cases. The EOC continues to meet regularly. We don't have a huge setup over at John's On like we did before, but we meet regularly, generally Thursday mornings, to assess the numbers and to discuss what the trends are, whether we have to pivot on some of the ways we're handling it, or go steady as you go. And lately we've been discussing about the point at which we might reopen the EOC, but pretty sure we're not there yet, and you'll certainly know about it whenever it happens. So as far as I'm concerned, keep doing what you're doing, Greenfield. You're doing a great job. Wear your masks, socially distance when you can, when you're out and about. And please, if you're not feeling well, stay home. Or if you don't have any particular reason to go out in a day, stay home. I'm not saying don't go for walks or any of those things, but don't run needless errands if you don't need to. That's been working. It is what works. And we greatly appreciate how well the city of Greenfield, for the most part, does with that. So once again, let me just express my appreciation. We are headed into the holidays, so, and of course, everybody wants to gather, particularly around Thanksgiving. I myself love to do it. I pretty much do it every Thanksgiving at my house. We don't have huge family, so it's not a matter of hurting anybody's feelings if they don't get invited. And together as a family, we have agreed to kind of do our Thanksgivings on our own. My daughter and her husband have his father, and they will celebrate there. She'll celebrate with Dick and I later on. And our son and his wife and our two grandchildren will stay where they are. Their other grandmother, who is much older, lives with them. So they don't want to take any chances of bringing stuff home if they can avoid it. So I would suggest that everybody use common sense, be mindful of the numbers of people that you have gathering. There are some particular don'ts, but mostly I think you can use your common sense. Don't share food from the same plate. Please try not to drink out of the same glasses. Those hugs that you all want to do, refrain, or, do whatever you do. Don't sing, don't dance, all of those things. I hate even saying those words. Just enjoy your Thanksgiving the best way you can, and let's all hope and pray that next year will be a better year. I think there's signs of that already going on out there. So in terms of economic recovery, I just want to make a few updates, I think, more than anything. If you're probably aware that we have the Franklin County Regional Micro Enterprise Assistance Program. That is the second, we have a second round of that. So the Micro Enterprise Assistance forgivable loans exist up to $10,000 and are available to businesses to help cover documented business losses due to COVID-19 and the economic shutdown. We're able to do that because the state awarded us, Franklin County, $600,000 in grant money to do these loans. And we've had 2 rounds of that, which have closed right now. But, the next round closes November 12th, so that's next week. 31 applications have been received, and a review of those applications are going on. The first awards will be made this week with funding next week. So I think that's a wonderful program. The first time we put it out, we had a lot of good response, so I'm delighted with that. Greenfield, out of the $600,000, because of being the larger community, has $100,000 to spend. So we will do what we can for as many businesses as we possibly can who want to take advantage of that. With regard to shared streets, we all enjoyed eventually our summer and were able to dine outside at a restaurant. We received $66,018 to create appropriate areas for dining customers to socially distance while having their meal and enjoying downtown. We successfully launched 5 out of 7 projects. When I say projects, I mean restaurants or eating establishments that were able to take advantage of it. 2 of them who applied decided not to, or who were identified, decided not to do it. So we were able to help 5 out of 7. Those planters that you see were locally made right here in Greenfield. We love them, and we'll probably use them again in other ways, even past COVID. We're actually talking to restaurants about having regular outdoor dining even past COVID under basically the same rules that we applied this year. So looking forward to in the springtime, spring and summer, carrying the program on whether we have COVID or not. So I'm happy to know that we're all talking about that, and there are some restaurants that benefited or feel like they benefited from being able to do outdoor dining. As far as other restaurant relief, we implemented a program for on-premises liquor license renewals, not for package stores, but for bars that have not been able to be open, restaurants that serve alcohol, and so forth. So for establishments like bars who are still unable to open, I want to get this correct, it's a little bit different. For those bars that have been closed basically since March and are unable to open because of the COVID restrictions that have not been lifted for them, we are doing a rebate for 2020 in the form of a 50% discount on the 2021 license. And when I say this, those licenses are expensive. If you can imagine being a restaurant that really relies on having your liquor license but being told you can't be open, it's like, where are you going to get the money for it? So we are trying to help them as much as we possibly can. And for all other on-premises liquor licenses, we are offering the same as a 10% reduction for 2021. We're also giving on all on-premises establishments a payment plan option. So if they want to do their payments in 3 payments, we will accommodate them in that way. So the insurance is very costly, as I mentioned, and usually establishments have to pay the premiums in advance in order to renew their liquor licenses, and local authorities had no way to waive that requirement. Governor Baker's new order eased that requirement. For folks who are still closed, they can wait to renew the liquor liability insurance prior to when they actually reopen. And their liquor licenses are not in any jeopardy. So if you own a business that relies on serving alcohol, this is hopefully some pieces of good news for you. The state also eased requirements on workman's comp insurance in a similar manner, again recognizing that businesses can't pay their bills if they can't be open or are only open in a moderate way. With that, I'd like to move on to something that happened as a result of the election on Tuesday, and that is that Greenfield voted in favor of taking advantage of the Community Preservation Act. And we're happy to see that happen. The city of Greenfield will take a role in seeing that that happens. Property owned, there are some exemptions. So I know that some people think it is a big tax increase. It is, first of all, not a huge tax increase, but any tax increase can be a problem. I get that. It doesn't get levied until FY22, and 1% of the real estate tax amount is what it is. There are exemptions for that. One is their property is owned, if the property is owned and occupied as a domicile by any person who qualifies for low income or low to moderate income, and in senior housing, that is an exemption. The first $100,000 in value of your property is exempt. So, as an example, sometimes that's the best way to look at it. If your house is valued and assessed at the $180,000, the 1% is on the tax bill that you received for that $80,000. So take that as an example of how it might apply to you. over time. Two, we'll be creating a community preservation committee to implement this. Currently, the mayor's office and city council are working on how that will occur. It's outlined in the law. There are members can come from both existing city boards and from the public. In fact, the law specifically states one person from Conservation Commission, Planning Board, Historical Commission, Housing Authority, and Board of Parks commissioners. We don't have a park commission per se, but we do have a recreation commission that works closely with Christie. And so after those numbers, we can have up to 4 at-large numbers. And believe me, it didn't take long for us to start getting the emails and the nods from members of the public with some expertise in any of the areas that are covered by CPA to let us know that they want to be on a board. So be patient, volunteers, and we'll work this out as soon as we can. And it'll be interesting to see how that ends up working out for us. And as I bring this to a close, let me say I've been remiss, which I meant to do right away, and that is I want to wholeheartedly thank the city clerk's office and all of the volunteers associated with the election with the extraordinary, above and beyond extraordinary job you have done making this election safe and successful. We far exceeded our number of voters who actually voted. Over 70%, I think, was the number recently. So that is pretty extraordinary if you've been involved in elections and following them over the years, including presidential elections in the city of Greenfield. So they've done an amazing job. They are still working. So they will wrap up, I think, by the end of this week, so tomorrow, Monday maybe, for the most part. But city clerk and her staff are working even still on it. So the other thank you goes out to Christy Moore and her staff and all of the volunteers that made Halloween fantastic. I participated along with Chief of Staff Danielle Letourneau. She was the bad witch, I was the good witch, as it be. And so we had a good time. It looked like everybody else was having a good time, including the volunteers. It's touch and go there for a while because I think we began the day with snow and we ended the day with sunshine and a lot of traffic. So I have to thank the neighbors in Highland Park for their patience. Actually, I got feedback from most of them who said, it was fine, it was great, we loved it. Now, whether they want that to go on year after year, I don't know. But it was a lot of fun. So I want to thank them again for that. And any questions that I can answer?
The only question I have is, so what's the criteria for reopening the EOC? Like, when would you decide which time?
That might be above my pay grade. Chief, you want to answer?
So, thank you, Bob Strand, Greenfield Fire Chief, Emergency Management Director, City of Greenfield. Great question. So we're looking at matrix such as increased hospitalizations, God forbid if we start seeing increased deaths, if we start seeing out of control spread within the community, any type of those triggers may cause us to activate. We are not going to be as an emergent situation that we were in the spring when it was brand new and we were lacking PPE and getting PPE and equipment out. And really trying to figure out what this virus was, how it was spreading, what's the best way to contain it. We have a lot of that already in place. Our community has done a great job by really adhering to the regulations and guidelines that have been put out. The biggest one is that we all know is masks, right? And the mask, when you're in contact with people, you should have a mask on when you're talking in a group of folks, and keeping social distancing like we are in this group as well. We'll play it by ear. We don't anticipate it anytime soon, but if those metrics do increase, it could be a possibility. Thank you.
So again, any other questions? Again, I just want to remind everybody, back to COVID, it's still here. It is in our community, so it's not contained, let's say, just to nursing homes or some other place like that. It is in the community, so once again, please, it didn't go anywhere. Just, I think our minds were off of it. But as we roll into the winter where we know we're going to be inside more, please mind your mask, your social distancing, and staying at home when you don't need to be out, or if you are feeling ill. And thank you.